The movie kicks off in 1965, focusing on the life of a man named Bernard Garrett as he prepares to testify before a committee in Washington, D.C. But in a captivating twist, we are transported back to his humble upbringing in Willis, Texas, back in 1939. While working as a shoe shiner outside a bank, Bernard's ears catch fragments of intriguing conversations about finances and real estate investing among his customers. He can't resist capturing these valuable tidbits, hoping they might hold the key to his future success. One fateful day, while engrossed in listening to a bank meeting, Bernard finds himself under the watchful eye of a police officer who suspects his intentions. Fearing his father's disapproval, Bernard's heart races as he contemplates the consequences of his actions. In the warmth of an evening conversation, Bernard's father shares chilling tales of the past, where young black men faced unimaginable injustices. Despite the cautionary words, Bernard remains unyielding in his determination to achieve greatness someday. Fast forward to Los Angeles in 1954. Bernard embarks on a journey with his wife Eunice and their son Bernard Jr. The suggestion of applying for a job at Northrop, an airplane manufacturer, is kindly made by Eunice's uncle. But with confidence in his real estate dreams, Bernard politely declines, charting his own course in the realm of property investment. Not everyone shares Bernard's enthusiasm, as the uncle chuckles skeptically, doubting his potential for success. Yet, nothing can deter Bernard's spirit as he holds firm to his belief that one day, fortune will be his. As Bernard ventures into the world of real estate, curious minds in his community take notice. Matt, a white friend of Bernard's cousin Tony, is intrigued by the car Bernard owns, assuming it signals wealth. His curiosity piqued, Matt wonders about Bernard's line of work, prompting Tony to reveal Bernard's growing portfolio of properties. With dreams in their hearts and aspirations in their eyes, Bernard and his wife venture into a white neighborhood to explore the possibilities of a new home. Despite their excitement, financial constraints prevent them from making immediate improvements. Ever the supportive partner, Bernard's wife, Eunice, introduces him to Joe, a potential co-investor with a history of working together. Bernard informs his wife that he has decided not to partner with Joe due to Joe's laid-back and careless demeanor, which gives off a playboy vibe. Furthermore, Bernard left without presenting his business concept. Bernard's wife is unhappy with his decision because she thinks he might have misjudged Joe. She believes it's essential for Bernard to engage in another conversation with Joe to gain a clearer understanding before finalizing any decisions about their potential collaboration. As the tension escalates, the governor, Joe's influential friend, enters the scene, but even that can't sway Bernard's decision to avoid working with Joe. Next, Bernard ventures into a daring negotiation with Patrick, the house owner. With calculations and finesse, he seeks a hefty loan of $10,000 for remodeling. The battle of wit keeps us on our toes, as Bernard promptly corrects Patrick's slight miscalculations, leaving him both impressed and reluctant. Intrigue fills the air as Bernard notices a mysterious gift from a banker named Mr. Reed on Patrick's shelf. Determined to seal the deal, Bernard heads to Mid-City Bank. He stands patiently outside the office, as Mr. Reed is currently occupied and unable to meet him. As soon as Mr. Reed finally emerges, he takes the opportunity to introduce himself. With enthusiasm, he shares his intriguing business concept, explaining how it could prove advantageous for both himself and Patrick. Back home, Bernard's nerves are on edge as he confides in his wife about the outcome. Just when he least expects it, a game-changing call comes in. Patrick, sounding serious and astute, reveals an unexpected twist that could turn the tables in Bernard's favor. With the excitement still palpable, Bernard and his wife hit the town for a celebratory night at a dazzling nightclub. There, an unforeseen encounter awaits as Joe approaches, sparking a conversation that could lead to unforeseen alliances. As the days pass, Bernard's dreams come to life as he and Tony embark on renovating the purchased house. But there's a twist. A resident questions their presence, but Bernard stands his ground, adamant that he owns the building and is ready to make his mark until 6 o'clock in the evening. As Bernard enters the apartment, he can't help but feel a surge of anger when he encounters someone snarky and notices the building's segregation. Fortunately, Matt shows up, ready to lend a hand with the renovation. Curious about Matt's comfort working for him, particularly since Bernard is a black man, Bernard inquires. Matt assures him that color doesn't play a role in their working relationship. What matters most is that the money is green. During the renovation process, things take an unexpected turn when two police officers respond to a false claim that Bernard is not the true owner. They try to intimidate Matt when he defends Bernard, emphasizing the importance of treating tenants with respect while verifying Bernard's ownership. Unfortunately, an elderly woman decides to leave the property upon learning that Bernard and his family will be moving in, driven by her unwillingness to accept the presence of black people. However, this doesn't deter other slightly wealthier black families from moving in. filling up the property entirely. Impressed by Bernard's remarkable success and real estate talents, Patrick proposes a 50-50 collaboration to acquire more rental properties. Delighted by the offer, Bernard gladly accepts, leveraging Patrick's public presence to accelerate business expansion. Together, they embark on renovating and acquiring more luxurious residences with the help of Matt, Tony, and Bernard's wife, who play vital roles in the process. One memorable day, Bernard surprises his wife with a stunning mansion, announcing that it will be their new home. The shock and delight on her face bring joy to his heart. Tragedy strikes when Patrick is discovered dead in his bed a few months later. In a unique agreement, Patrick's wife offers Bernard 25 of all the jointly acquired properties. Though Bernard has reservations about the arrangement, he reluctantly accepts, realizing he has little choice since his name isn't on any paperwork. Seeking help from Mr. Reed proves to be a disappointment as the banker refuses to meet with him. However, Bernard's resourceful mind leads him to a brilliant idea. He approaches Joe, who he now knows owns 18 rental homes, proposing a cooperative business venture that could change their fortunes forever. By teaming up, they unlock the chance to purchase the banker's building. The 12 banks currently leasing there will think twice before denying them loans in the future, giving them the means to rapidly expand and acquire properties, even in white-only neighborhoods. Joe admires their boldness but raises a valid concern about potential racial bias when selling houses to them. They ask Matt to be the face of their firm, though he has some initial doubts. At the local cafe, Susie, a waitress who recognizes Matt from Hollywood High, takes an interest in him. As he discusses a potential new job, Susie becomes impressed upon learning it's a real estate investing partnership. Matt's excitement grows, and after meeting with Bernard and Joe, he gladly accepts the position. Joe becomes a mentor to Matt in golf, a crucial skill to impress the bank's property owner. Meanwhile, Bernard connects with Donald, a former client of Joe's, who's willing to finance up to $2 million for the bank property. Although Matt faces challenges, he steadily improves his golfing and arithmetic abilities, gaining confidence along the way. In their strategy to purchase the banker's building, Bernard ingeniously arranges a meeting for Matt with Charles Renault, the building's owner, at an exclusive golf club. As expected, Matt impresses Charles with his golfing prowess, ultimately securing the deal to buy the building for $1.56 million. After celebrating their success, they forge strong relationships with lenders and continue acquiring upscale properties in white-only areas. Eventually, Matt and Susie tie the knot. Their collaboration propels them into the realm of real estate moguls, even granting them the chance to meet the U.S. Vice President at the banker's building. Years later, during a visit to Texas, Bernard's father expresses his immense pride in him. While strolling, Bernard fondly recalls his past, reflecting on the days when he used to shine the shoes of affluent men outside Mainland Bank, a reminder of the incredible journey they've taken. He shares his desire with Joe to buy the bank. In Texas, where there's increased hostility towards black business owners, Joe expresses that running a bank is an extremely complex task beyond their expertise. However, Bernard is confident in using Matt as a front, similar to their successful approach with the banker's building. When Joe learns about a significant untapped market caused by black people being unable to borrow money from banks, he reluctantly agrees to partner with them. Later on, Matt successfully purchases the bank, leaving the former owner, Florence, with a 20% ownership stake. They discreetly start allowing credit-worthy black individuals to borrow money, resulting in a threefold increase in loans. Consequently, some black families are now able to afford nicer homes, and black entrepreneurs witness a boost in their company's profits. After 3 months, the bank executive and Florence discover that loans are being provided to black people. The executive warns them of potential bank runs if this information gets out and presents a paper indicating anonymous complaints about risky loans to the Treasury Department, triggering an inspection in a month. In response, Matt proposes a plan to Joe and Bernard to address the issue. He suggests distributing the loans they have made between 2 banks and acquiring another small bank that he can personally operate. This approach minimizes the chances of government intervention due to excessive loans. Initially skeptical, Joe and Bernard eventually agree when Matt insists on becoming a partner and owner to continue helping them. As a result, Matt acquires Marlin Bank, the bank they recently purchased. In the following days, they swiftly make financial adjustments to reduce their risk. One morning, a federal bank examiner visits Marlin Bank, and Matt contacts Bernard for assistance. Bernard immediately informs his wife about Matt's situation and decides to attend the meeting with the examiner personally to prevent any potential mistakes. As Matt meets with the examiner, Bernard pretends to clean and offers his help, but the examiner closes the door for their private discussion. Bernard steps away when he can no longer hear them. As Matt encounters difficulties, He excuses himself to check some files and seeks assistance from others outside. They provide guidance, but unfortunately, it doesn't resolve the issue as the examiner identifies more problematic loans on their records. The group decides that Joe and Bernard must contribute $300,000 of their own funds to cover the bank's defaulted loans. A few days later, Donald, Joe's attorney, informs them that Mainland Bank acquired $300,000 in bad debt from Marlin Bank. Joe and Bernard rush to Mainland Bank, expressing anger towards Matt for his actions, as purchasing bad loans is considered fraud. Joe is astonished, and Bernard pleads with Matt to rectify the situation promptly by bringing out the books. However, at that moment, representatives from the federal government arrive, announcing the suspension of Mainland's banking license. They ask everyone to leave and declare the bank closed until further notice. As they step outside, the FBI takes Joe and Bernard into custody. Later, in Washington, D.C., lawyer informs them that the state banking charges against them have been dropped. But there are still federal charges related to banking regulations, prompted by Joe's and Bernard's allegations. They are advised to focus on turning this into a political matter, which might lead to the dismissal of the federal charges as well. Meanwhile, Matt is in trouble for handling the bank matter dishonestly. He faces the choice of accepting a 50-year prison sentence or testifying in court that Joe and Bernard were solely responsible and be set free. After careful consideration, he chooses to testify, claiming that Joe and Bernard hired and controlled him, providing instructions on managing the loans and cash transfers. Bernard faced a life-altering decision. Should he accept the immunity offer, confessing to benefiting from lax rules and walking away a free man? Or should he reject it, leaving his fate in the hands of the court, where the truth would be tested? Outside, Bernard and Eunice wandered, contemplating their uncertain future. He argued that it was too early for two black people to own a bank in Texas, but Eunice saw it differently, believing their actions brought vital issues to light. In the courtroom, Bernard took the stand, his voice unwavering as he spoke of equality and the unfulfilled American dream. Despite warnings of losing immunity, he bravely pressed on. As he rises from his seat, he passionately argues that without access to a loan, a person's dream of establishing a business, amassing wealth, or buying a home becomes an unattainable reality, effectively excluding them from the American ideal. Despite numerous warnings about potential consequences, he remains resolute in his actions, even at the risk of losing his immunity. Consequently, Joe and Bernard find themselves sentenced to 3 years in prison, and the federal government seizes all their assets, including their 177 owned buildings and personal fortunes. In the aftermath, the question lingered: how could so many black people be excluded from the American dream? After their release, Eunice lamented their lack of a home. Bernard confided in someone, revealing a secret he had been holding. On the day just before Matt was scheduled to testify, Matt reached out to Bernard and disclosed that he had been threatened with a potential 50-year prison sentence if he didn't falsely accuse others of various crimes. Interestingly, the government hadn't seized their assets yet. Taking advantage of the situation, Bernard requested Matt to purchase 2 properties in the Bahamas, one for himself and another for their mutual friend Joe. Eunice was overjoyed by this revelation. 3 years later, Congress passed the Fair Housing Act of 1968, finally addressing the deep-rooted racial issues in real estate purchases and rentals. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe Mango Recap for more video like this and help the channel grow.